Hi everyone, and welcome to The Sleepy Scientist. I'm really happy you're here. Tonight, we're going to go on a calm and quiet trip to learn something amazing. So get comfy, take a deep breath, and let's enjoy this peaceful science story together. Before we start, tell me in the comments, where are you watching from and what time is it for you right now? If you like relaxing science videos, don't forget to tap the like button. Now let's begin. Long before stars carved their names into the sky, before galaxies danced in spirals and time had found its rhythm, something gentle stirred. It was not a sound, and yet it hummed. It was not heat, and yet it warmed the silence. This was the birth of light, not the kind we see flickering in lamps or glinting on water, but the very first breath of the cosmos. The universe, once curled in darkness, blinked open, and from that blink came photons, tiny messengers with no mass, no rest, but infinite purpose. They began to move across nothing into everything. Imagine a darkness so complete it wasn't even black, because there was nothing yet to reflect, absorb, or shimmer. Then from a fire too dense to understand, the universe expanded like a sigh held too long. It wasn't an explosion, not in the way fireworks burst across our skies. It was more like a soft unfolding, like paper pressed into the shape of a flower by invisible hands. In that unfolding came energy, and from energy, light. These early photons were different from the ones that glint off a child's smile or bounce through the leaves of a forest. They were raw, unfiltered and wild, but they were there, and they began to travel. Even now, some of them are still traveling. If you closed your eyes and could somehow feel beyond time, you might sense them passing through you, like ancient whispers. These are the photons from the Big Bang, the cosmic background light, still echoing, still moving, still telling the first story of everything. At first, they couldn't go far. The universe was thick, like fog too heavy to breathe. Photons would bump into matter, ricochet, scatter, trapped in a dance with particles that had no room to rest. It took hundreds of thousands of years for things to cool, to settle, to find space. But eventually the fog lifted. The universe became transparent, and those first photons were free. That moment, when light could finally stretch its legs and run, is called the cosmic microwave background. It's not a flash, it's a glow, a silent echo that surrounds us still, like a lullaby from the cradle of time. Even now, with all our tools and telescopes, we cannot see the first stars with our eyes, but we can feel their memory. We can detect the light that began the journey before stars even knew how to burn. Scientists capture this faint afterglow, like catching the warmth of a fire long since gone out. It's not just data, it's the universe remembering how it began to shine. Photons are strange travellers. They have no mass, and yet they carry energy. They move at the fastest speed nature allows, and they never stop to rest. To a photon, time doesn't pass at all. If it leaves a star a billion years away and lands in your eye, it's as if no time passed at all in its journey. It is born, it travels, it arrives, all in the same breath. Light, then, is not just what we see, it's what connects us to places we'll never visit, to times that are long gone, and to a beginning none of us can remember. And so, every time you look up, at the stars, at the moon, even at the gentle blue of a morning sky, you are not just seeing light, you're receiving messages from the past. You're catching the tail of a whisper that began billions of years ago. And in that light, something quiet stirs. The first memory of the universe, still glowing, still speaking, still drifting through you like a dream. You don't need to understand the equations, you only need to feel it. The way a warm beam falls across your hand, or how moonlight makes the world seem softer. That's not just light. That's the beginning of everything, touching you, reminding you that nothing truly ends. It only changes, and light, most of all, never dies. It only moves on. Now imagine the light spreading quietly, patiently across the fabric of a universe still learning how to be. There were no galaxies yet, no clusters of stars or glowing clouds. Only this new transparency, this space between things, like a newborn silence waiting to be filled. The photons moved through it freely now, unchained by the dense plasma that once held them back. And as they travelled, they began to write history, not in books, but in brightness. Each beam carried with it the temperature of its time, the echo of its birth, the slow cooling of the cosmos. This background light, now faint and cold, was once searing, vibrant and close. In those early years, the universe was still young and hot, filled with particles darting and spinning in their own version of dance. As it aged, the universe stretched, and with that stretching came cooling, a quieting. The photons, once energetic and blue, became softer, redder, stretched by the expansion of everything. Today they arrive not in vivid flashes, but in microwaves, gentle, low-energy waves that whisper rather than shout. And yet they are everywhere, a glow from no direction and all directions at once. This glow is not random. It holds patterns, subtle ripples frozen in time. These ripples tell a story, a map of where matter gathered, where it clumped, where it would one day become galaxies, stars, planets, and us. These tiny differences in temperature, these soft fingerprints of early light, were the seeds of structure. Without them, the universe might have remained a mist. Instead, gravity tugged at these ripples, gently coaxing chaos into form. And so light not only revealed what was, but shaped what could be. We often think of light as quick, as fleeting, a flicker, a blink, a flash. But cosmic light is patient. It does not rush. It has travelled for billions of years, bending through space, curving with gravity, weaving through time. Some of it has been absorbed, changed, re-emitted. Some of it is still on its way, and some of it, just a small quiet part, lands here, on Earth, where it becomes part of our morning sky or dances on the back of a leaf. The photons that began near the dawn of time still participate in the present. They are ancient travellers, timeless and tireless. In the vast spaces between galaxies, light moves almost untouched. But near massive objects, stars, black holes, and even clusters of galaxies, it bends. Not because it wants to, but because space itself curves around mass. This bending of light is called gravitational lensing, and it allows us to see things we could never otherwise see. Sometimes, light from a distant galaxy travels billions of years only to pass near another, closer galaxy. That closer galaxy warps the space around it, bending the path of light like glass curves a beam. The result is a magnified, sometimes distorted glimpse of something impossibly far away. It's as if the universe itself is offering us a lens, gently held in its hands. And here is something wondrous. Even the darkness between the stars is not truly dark. Photons still stream through it, unseen by human eyes but caught by sensitive instruments. They bring news not just from the past, but from the edges of what we know. Some of these photons are born from the deaths of stars, supernovae that hurl light in all directions. Some come from quasars, galaxies with hearts so bright they outshine all their stars. And some arrive from collisions of things we cannot see, dark matter perhaps, or ancient forces we do not yet understand. Every photon is a letter, and the universe is a constant sender. Even your body tells the story of light. Your eyes evolved to detect a tiny slice of the electromagnetic spectrum, the visible light that comes from the sun and bounces through the world. We see red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and violet, not because they are special, but because they are useful. They are the light that reaches us from our star, filtered through our sky, but beyond that lies more. Infrared, ultraviolet, radio, X-ray, gamma, the full language of light, much of which we cannot see but feel. Warmth is infrared. A sunburn is ultraviolet. The signals of stars, the pulses of dying suns, the echoes of the beginning, all are there, just out of sight. And yet, even unseen, light affects everything. It drives the weather. It feeds the plants. It stirs the oceans. It moves through us and past us. It guides satellites, powers telescopes, and reveals the bones beneath our skin. In every way that matters, light is the reason we exist, and the reason we can know we exist. Without it, we would be blind not just to the world, but to ourselves. There is a kindness in light, a gentleness in the way it touches things. It does not demand attention. It does not push. It only moves, steadily, patiently across all of time and space, leaving warmth, shadow, colour, and reflection in its path. And so when we study light, we do not just study physics. We study memory. We study presence. We study the universe's way of reaching out to touch itself. Close your eyes and let yourself imagine the first light again. Not the sun, not fire, but the soft glow of a world just becoming. That light is still here. It may be faint, it may be old, but it has not been lost. It is in the night sky, in the afterglow of stars, in the spaces between things. It moves through you, through the oceans, through glass and cloud and skin. And it says one thing, always the same thing. I am still here. I have travelled far, I've seen everything, and I remember. Light does not end its journey when it reaches us. It keeps going, bouncing, bending, absorbed into leaves, reflected off water, captured by cameras, or held softly in an eye. But some of it, just a little, becomes part of memory. Not the kind we store in pictures or notes, but something deeper, a moment, a glow, a feeling we carry without knowing. That memory may come in the way a sunset stirs your breath to pause, or how moonlight falling on an empty street feels like a quiet story only you can hear. That is how light lingers, not as an object, but as presence. We often think of light in terms of what it shows us, the things it reveals, the shadows it chases, but light does more than illuminate. It connects. A photon that touches your skin might have left a star that no longer exists. A speck of sunlight warming a stone might have journeyed for 8 minutes across space, dodging planets and particles, to arrive with no expectation except to touch and move on. And when it leaves again, scattered, softened, changed, it carries with it a trace of where it has been. In this way, light is both traveller and storyteller. It does not keep what it touches, but it remembers. Even now, scientists try to follow the path of light not just across space, but through time. Telescopes like Hubble and James Webb do not just look far, they look up or back. The farther the light, the older the story. Galaxies seen in the present are really galaxies from the past. Their light just now arriving. We look into the sky and see the history of the universe unfolding, not in pages, but in photons. Some of those photons were born when Earth was still molten, others when the first trees breathed, and some, ancient, fragile, war brave, were born when there were no eyes to see them. But they travelled anyway, waiting for someone someday to wonder. To understand how photons can carry so much without weight is to understand that not all journeys are measured by distance. Some are measured by meaning. A photon may cross 1 trillion kilometres in silence, never touching anything until it kisses the lens of a telescope or the curve of a leaf. In that moment it changes. It gives itself. It ends. And in that ending it becomes part of a larger beginning. A photo, a memory, a warmth, a thought. That is the quiet grace of light. It lives only through sharing. Photons can become tangled bundles too. Not physically, but quantumly. 2 particles of light created in a certain way can stay connected even if they are separated by galaxies. Change one and the other seems to know. No wire, no signal. Just an invisible thread of knowing. Scientists call this entanglement. And though it defies common logic, it has been proven again and again. What does this mean? Maybe that light not only connects space, but hearts of space. That the universe itself is not divided into pieces, but bound by soft threads of knowing we cannot yet see. But even as we learn more, the mystery grows. For all we know about light, its speed, its spectrum, its behaviour, we still cannot fully explain why it exists, or how it knows where to go, or why it can behave as both a wave and a particle depending on how we look. It's as if light listens. It adapts to the question we ask. If we ask if it's a wave, it says yes. If we ask if it is a particle, it also says yes. This is the heart of quantum weirdness. Light, like so much in the universe, defies a single story. It is many things all at once, softly choosing a path based on how we wonder. In the oldest myths, light was always sacred. It came from gods, from fire, from the sky. It was power. It was life. And perhaps even in modern understanding, some of that remains true. Not as magic, but as wonder. Not as myth, but as miracle. Because every moment you see, you are touching ancient fire. You're receiving the long-held breath of stars. You are living inside the glow of a universe that has never stopped shining. In the quietest parts of Earth, the deep oceans, the cold deserts, the tops of mountains where the sky grows thin, photons still fall like snowflakes, unnoticed but constant. They enter cracks in stone, glimmer on the wings of birds, shimmer across the surface of sleeping water. They carry the echo of beginnings into places where no voice ever spoke. They do not hurry, they do not tire. They are always arriving. And so, when you lie beneath the stars and feel something vast pressing gently on your chest, know that you are not alone. You are being touched by something ancient, something soft, something full of stories that never needed words. The light that touches your skin may have waited billions of years for this moment. Not to teach you, not to change you, only to be here with you. In the end, perhaps that is what photons are. The universe's way of saying, I am here, even when it seems silent, even when it seems still, even when we forget to look. Light is the gentle reminder that something has always been watching, not like a judge, but like a witness, quietly bearing witness to every moment, every change, every heartbeat of time. Let that thought settle in your chest, not as a question, but as comfort. You're part of this light, and it is part of you. It has travelled from the edge of the beginning just to arrive at your eyes, your skin, your thought. And as you breathe, you too send light onward, through reflection, through movement, through the gentle shining of being alive. Nothing ends. It only changes. Light shows us this with every quiet whisper. It leaves. It returns. It bends. It swings. But it is always moving, always remembering. And if you ever feel small in the wide hush of space, just remember, the light remembers you. Each night when the sky darkens and the stars begin to appear one by one, something ancient unfolds above you. It is easy to forget, surrounded by cities and screens, that the stars are not decorations, but messages. Every star you see is sending light across impossible distances, across time itself. That light began its journey long before your first breath, long before your ancestors gathered around firelight, long before oceans knew the rhythm of tides. And still, it travels. Each beam, each flicker, each shimmer, all are memories, suspended in motion. To look at a star is to see into the past. The light from even the closest star took years to reach you. From others, it took centuries, thousands of years, even millions. Some of the stars whose light you now see may no longer exist. They may have already dimmed or died, but their last breath of brilliance is still crossing the universe, still making its way to you. When it arrives, it brushes your eye gently, as if to whisper, I was here. You are not just seeing light, you are receiving a farewell. That light is not random. It carries the fingerprint of its star. Its colour, its warmth, its subtle flickers tell a story about what the star is made of, how it moves, what burns within it. Just by analysing a single thread of starlight, scientists can know what elements swirl in its core, how fast it spins, how old it is. Like reading the biography of something so far away it cannot speak, but still wants to be known. Starlight carries that wish. To be remembered, to be understood even from a distance no voice can cross. But light does more than tell us about stars, it tells us about space itself. As light moves through the cosmos, it is stretched by the expansion of the universe. This stretching turns blue light into red, changes short waves into long ones. It is called a red shift, and it is how scientists know how fast things are moving away. It's not just that the stars are far, it's that the universe is growing and light stretches with it, like a whisper pulled thin by distance. The more red the light, the longer it has travelled, the farther back in time it was born. Sometimes light bends as it travels, not because it chooses to, but because it must. Massive objects like galaxies or black holes curve the space around them, and light, though weightless, follows those curves. This bending is not a trick. It's a map. When we see a star that seems to shimmer or appears in two places at once, we may be witnessing this phenomenon. Gravitational lensing. A starlight's path twisted softly by invisible hands. And that bend, that shimmer, allows us to see deeper than we ever could on our own. Some stars flicker, not because they are blinking, but because their light is being dimmed by something passing in front, maybe a planet, maybe a disk of dust. This flickering is precious. It is a clue. By measuring the dip in brightness, scientists can guess the size and orbit of the object in the way. This is how many exoplanets, planets outside our solar system, have been found. Not by seeing the planet, but by feeling its shadow. Light makes the unseen seen, not by showing it directly, but by revealing its effects. Even here, on Earth, light holds memories. Ancient rocks carry trapped photons in their crystal lattices. Trees grow in rings shaped by the rhythm of sunlight. Coral reefs build their layers in time with seasons of light and dark, and in caves deep underground, particles of starlight, cosmic rays, sometimes leave trails in stone, a quiet reminder that nothing is ever truly hidden from the sky. We live in a world written in light, even when we do not notice it. You are part of this light story too. The cells in your eyes are tuned to catch starlight, to sort it into colour and form. Your body responds to day and night, to brightness and dusk. You wake and rest with the sun's rhythm, not by command, but by inheritance. You are a creature shaped by the stars, still dancing to the beat of ancient photons. When you look up and feel awe, it is not just beauty, it is recognition. A memory too old for words, stirred awake by the presence of the sky. And sometimes, in the stillness of night, a star may fall. Not truly a star, but a fragment, a pebble from space entering our atmosphere and burning bright. We call them shooting stars, and we make wishes. But what we're seeing is light once again marking time. A flare, a trail, a moment that says, something happened here. Light turns even endings into the wonder. The stars are not seed. Their light hums within Frumkin and whole and carries emotion, holds history. You do not need to be a scientist to feel it. Stand under a clear night sky. Breathe. Let your eyes adjust. Slowly, patiently, the stars will appear, not all at once, but as if remembering you, returning to you, one by one. You are not just watching, you are participating. Your presence is the final part of light's journey, and in that shared moment between star, light, and you, a memory is made again. Long before there were eyes to see or names to give, starlight filled the dark with quiet persistence. It did not wait for observers. It moved simply because that is what light does. It travels. Over hills of gravity, through clouds of gas, past planets unborn, it made its way outward. It needed no witness. But now we are here, and because of us, that journey has meaning. Each photon that lands on Earth completes a story billions of years in the making. And when it lands, it tells us not just about stars, but about how time itself carries memory. Look deeper into that idea. A single photon born from a star's core may take thousands of years just to escape that star's surface. Inside, the light bounces, zigzags, delays, trapped by density, slowed by collisions. It isn't a patient flicker. When it finally breaks free into the space, its real journey begins. It could head in any direction, most never touch anything again. But a rare few will, by the sheer chance of angle and time, make it to Earth. And of those, an even smaller few will touch your skin, your eye, or your camera. A meeting billions of years in the making. And it's not only light from stars that travels. Whole galaxies release waves of photons. Some from stars, some from clouds of dust, some from violent bursts like supernovae or colliding neutron stars. These events send out light with more energy than we can imagine. Gamma rays and X-rays, too sharp for the eye, move outward at the same speed, carrying with them the signatures of forces too powerful for us to truly grasp. But they come all the same, reaching us with a message. Something once happened here. Something rare. Something beautiful. We catch these messages with more than our eyes. We build vast mirrors, long tunnels, floating satellites. Devices that listen not to sound, but to light. Radio telescopes stretch their arms to the sky, gathering signals too wide for our pupils to detect. Space telescopes soar above the clouds, capturing infrared whispers or ultraviolet sparks. And together they reveal an invisible sky, one filled with motion, heat, and patterns. One where starlight is not just illumination, but instruction. The cosmos speaks in photons, and we, at last, have begun to understand the language. But sometimes starlight is distorted. Along its path, light can pass through dust or gas, which dims it or shifts its colour. Entire regions of the galaxy appear dark to us, not because they lack stars, but because their light is hidden behind veils of matter. Even this is a clue. The absence tells us something is there. Infrared light with longer wavelengths can slip past these clouds, and when we build tools to see it, we find stars being born, cradled in cocoons, hidden until they are ready to shine. Light reveals, even when it is missing. There is another kind of memory held in starlight: motion. As stars move, their light stretches or compresses. A star moving away appears redder, a star moving toward us, bluer. This Doppler shift is subtle but precise. It lets us measure the orbit of stars, the spin of galaxies, the trembling of planets tugging gently on suns. Entire worlds have been discovered this way, by their tiny effect on starlight. No image, no photograph, just a shift in the colour of a beam across time. In this way, light becomes a fingerprint of motion, and every photon carries the rhythm of a star's dance. Starlight also carries the echoes of explosions. When a star reaches the end of its life, it may collapse inward and burst outward in a supernova. The energy is colossal. For a brief time, that single star can outshine its entire galaxy. The light from that moment expands outward forever. Centuries later, it may reach us. Some of the oldest supernovae we know were recorded not by telescopes, but by ancient watchers. They drew stars on cave walls or wrote down guest stars in the sky, new lights that appeared for a short while and then vanished. Their records, simple and silent, match what we now confirm with instruments, human memory and starlight memory together. And then there are neutrinos, ghostly particles that travel with light. They come from the same explosions, the same stellar births and deaths. They are not photons, but they too carry stories. Unlike light, neutrinos pass through almost everything, earth, stone, even your own body, without stopping. But when we do catch them, we learn something new. They tell us what was happening deep inside a star, not just what it showed on the surface, like hearing not just a voice, but the breath behind it. We are beginning to understand that starlight is not static. It flickers, changes, pulses. Some stars are variable. They expand and contract, grow brighter and dimmer in cycles. Others spin so quickly that their brightness varies just from the wobble. And some blink with perfect rhythm like lighthouses in space. These are pulsars, collapsed stars spinning with precision. Each flash of light from a pulsar is like a cosmic heartbeat, steady and exact, telling time more precisely than our best atomic clocks. These pulses arrive across vast space and still, they never miss a beat. So when we say that light is a memory, it is not a metaphor. It is literal. Each ray is a message from the past, carrying information about a moment that has already passed, sometimes long before Earth had life. But the memory is not gone. It is carried forward, through the dark, through the dust, until it lands. In a telescope, in a mirror, in you, and in that moment the past becomes present. Let yourself imagine that. Somewhere in the distant sky, a star shone its light millions of years ago. That light has been travelling ever since, perhaps through the emptiness, perhaps bending around galaxies, perhaps brushing the edge of a black hole's pull. And now here, in your time, in your breath, it completes its journey. You lift your eyes, you see a twinkle, and in that twinkle a memory is shared. Softly, without sound, without effort, just light arriving home. As you read this, starlight is still falling. It slips through the atmosphere, past the swirl of clouds, across cities, mountains, forests. It moves through windows, touches tree leaves, lands on quiet lakes. Some of it, unseen, nestles in the grass or glints off glass. Most passes unnoticed, completing journeys without celebration. But a few photons, just a few, find what they've been silently seeking for eons, an eye to meet them, a mind to wonder. And in that moment, something beautiful happens. Memory becomes experience. We often forget how delicate light is. It can be blocked by a curtain, drowned by a bulb, scattered by mist. Yet despite this, it persists. From galaxies millions of light years away, photons still find us. They are fragile but determined. Some pass through cosmic dust. Some slip through gravitational fields warped by invisible matter. Some cross the void between stars where time stretches thin and silence reigns. But none of them complain. None of them demand. They simply continue, because that is what light has always done. It moves forward, and when it arrives, it gives. A photon has no mass, but it carries energy. When it touches your eye, it triggers a cascade of signals that tell your brain there is something here. A glimmer, a hue, a contrast. You do not see the photon, you see its result. Its journey ends by beginning one inside you. This is the quiet miracle of vision. Your body translates light into knowing, into memory, into meaning. A star's flicker becomes a thought. A distant explosion becomes awe. The ancient past becomes the felt present. And light doesn't just move across space, it weaves through time in more than one direction. Starlight touches not only your eyes, but your imagination. It inspires paintings, poems, stories. It guides sailors and dreamers, scientists and lovers. It marks the seasons, sets the rhythm of sleep and waking, draws children to windows, wondering at the moon. Light becomes language. It becomes feeling. It becomes the bond between the universe and the soul within it. There is starlight in you too, not just in your eyes, but in your atoms. The carbon in your breath, the iron in your blood, the calcium in your bones were forged in stars long gone. Supernovae, great stellar deaths, scattered those elements into space. Gravity pulled them together again, slowly forming new stars, new worlds. And one day, this one. You are quite literally made of star remnants. And now those stars are lighting your skin again. The cycle closes, the memory completes itself. You are the starlight returned. Sometimes we build domes with mirrors and lasers and name them observatories. We think of them as tools for science, and they are, but they are also chapels, not of religion, but of reverence. Inside those domes, we open the ceiling and wait for light to arrive. We do not shout, we do not command, we listen. We point our mirrors and hope, and then, faint, careful, late, the photons arrive. They slide into lenses, onto detectors. They whisper their data. And we listen humbly, gratefully, knowing the universe does not owe us its secrets. But still, it shares them. What we find in that light changes us. We learn of black holes, not by seeing them, but by watching the stars they silence. We discover galaxies forming in the dark, ancient and strange, their light redshifted into deep infrared, nearly lost to time. We measure the wobble of stars, the echo of the Big Bang, the fingerprint of planets we may never walk upon. All from light, just light. It asks for nothing. It gives us everything. But light is not only out there, it's here, in the sunbeam warming a windowsill, in the colour of a ripe fruit, in the flicker of a candle, the glitter of rain, the glint of laughter in someone's eyes. All of it. Photons, moving, sharing, arriving. Every surface in your life has known light. Every object you've ever seen has been touched by it. And in that touching, something quiet happened. Recognition. Proof, however soft, that this moment existed. When you walk under the stars, you are walking through history. Not metaphorically, but truly. The light you see is old. It began before you did, before your city or your country existed. And still, it waited. It aimed toward Earth, toward this part of the sky, toward this particular night. You did not ask for it, but here it is. And if you lift your head, open your eyes, and simply look, you complete its story. That is what it came for. Let yourself pause there. Feel the hush of that realization. Not heavy, not overwhelming, just still. You are part of something ancient, something luminous, something patient. The stars do not need you to understand them, but they shine anyway. They send their light anyway. And you, by being here, by being aware, become the one who remembers. You carry their echo, their story, their soft glowing gift. Perhaps that is the truest meaning of starlight. It is the past, arriving in the present, so that the future may hold it close. It is the universe's way of never forgetting. And as long as even one photon remains, the story is not over. Somewhere a beam of light is still on its way, from a star still shining, from a place still unfolding, from a memory not yet known. Let it come. There are places on Earth where the sky comes alive, not with thunder or rain, but with light that dances in silence. If you've ever stood beneath the northern or southern lights, you know this feeling. The hush, the colours that ripple like fabric stirred by a breeze, the sense that the sky is dreaming, and you're watching it from the inside. These are the auroras, not painted or projected, but born from invisible threads that connect Earth to the stars. They are not just beautiful, they are a language, soft and glowing, spoken between sun and sky. To understand the aurora, we must first follow the sun. Not its light, but something more hidden, its wind. The sun is not still, it breathes. It sends out a stream of charged particles, tiny bits of itself, in every direction. This is called the solar wind, and it travels far beyond the planets, stretching past Pluto, past comets, past the outer edges of our solar system. It moves quickly, brushing against everything in its path, and when it reaches Earth, something happens. Earth is wrapped in a magnetic field, a gentle shield made by the movement of molten metals deep inside our planet. This field protects us from the harshness of space. It curves around the planet like invisible arms guiding the solar wind around us. But sometimes the wind is strong. Sometimes it carries bursts of energy from solar storms, explosions on the sun's surface that throw out more particles than usual. When those arrive, they press against Earth's magnetic field, shaking it, stretching it, stirring it into motion. Most of these particles never reach the ground, but near the poles, the magnetic field curves inward, funneling some particles down into the atmosphere, and here, in the high altitudes of the sky, they meet the gases that surround us: oxygen, nitrogen, the ingredients of breath. And when the particles and gases meet, something luminous happens. Light is released. Not a flash, not a spark, but a glow, soft, slow, and alive. This is the aurora. Different gases produce different colours. Oxygen glows green, and at higher altitudes red. Nitrogen produces blues and purples. The result is a sky painted in motion, streaks, curtains, spirals that shimmer and flow. And though the cause is particle collision, the effect feels like music, as if the Earth is singing back to the sun softly, in waves of light. But it's not just beautiful, it's meaningful. The aurora is a visible trace of invisible forces. It is Earth's magnetic field made visible. It is solar activity written across the sky. Long before scientists understood what caused it, people watched and wondered. They gave the lights names, told stories about them, painted them in caves and spoke of them in poems. In the north they were thought to be the spirits of ancestors, dancing. In the south they were firefoxes racing across the sky. The truth is no less magical, for what could be more poetic than the breath of the sun touching the breath of our planet and becoming light? At its heart the aurora is a pulse. It ebbs and flows. It flares in cycles tied to the rhythm of the sun. Every 11 years, solar activity rises and falls. During peaks, auroras reach farther from the poles, painting skies above cities and deserts, above oceans and forests. Even those who live far from the poles may glimpse them. A soft green glow on the horizon, a flicker that feels like a secret. And though it may last only minutes, the memory it leaves is lifelong. In science, we now monitor auroras from space. Satellites trace the flow of solar particles. Instruments measure magnetic shifts. We can predict when the lights will come, almost like forecasting weather. But even with this knowledge, the experience of standing beneath them is something science cannot fully contain. Because the aurora is more than data. It is sensation. It is wonder. It is a moment where the sky forgets it is sky and becomes ocean, becomes breath, becomes something that watches you back. Imagine being in the far north, snow beneath your feet, cold air brushing your face. The sky above first dark, then not. A green glow begins to shimmer. It stretches, curls, folds in on itself, then pink, then violet, and then movement, as if the sky itself is swimming. No sound, no rush, just this graceful turning, like time slowing down. You do not need to understand it to feel it. You only need to be there, eyes open, stillness in your bones. For in that stillness, something shifts. The aurora does not speak in words, but it tells a story, one of connection, of a sun 50 million kilometers away. Breathing out particles that touch the edges of Earth's invisible skin and finding their way, at last, to your sky. What begins as fire becomes colour. What begins in silence becomes a pulse. What begins in space becomes yours. Let us drift deeper into the heart of the aurora, not as observers, but as travellers. To understand the quiet pulse that lights the sky, we must move beyond the surface of things. We must imagine the journey of a single charged particle born from a storm on the sun's surface. It begins in chaos, a solar flare, a coronal mass ejection, where loops of magnetic energy snap and release a torrent of plasma into space. Inside that storm is our particle, tiny, invisible, but full of motion. It is pushed outward, riding the solar wind like a leaf caught in a gust, sailing across millions of kilometers toward Earth. The journey is not straight. The solar wind is not calm. It swirls and eddies, sometimes slowed by the sun's own magnetic field, sometimes accelerated by open channels in space, but eventually, after days or even hours, it nears Earth. Here it meets a barrier, not solid, not visible, but powerful. Earth's magnetosphere. Like a shield shaped by planetary breath, it deflects most of the solar wind, guiding it around the planet in long, sweeping arcs. But some particles find their way in, funneled down the magnetic field lines toward the polar regions. It is there, near the top and bottom of the world, that the story becomes light. As these particles spiral down, they pick up speed. They enter the upper atmosphere where the air is thin and cold. There, they collide with atoms and molecules, mostly oxygen and nitrogen. These collisions excite the atoms, lifting their electrons into higher energy states. But nature does not like imbalance. The atoms quickly return to calm, and when they do, they release photons, tiny bursts of light. Millions of these interactions happen every second. The result is the aurora. Each colour tells a story. The most familiar green comes from oxygen about 100 kilometres above the surface. Higher still, oxygen can emit red, though this light is fainter, more subtle. Nitrogen contributes blues and purples, adding depth to the display. And the shape of the aurora, the flowing curtains, the waving spirals, is shaped by the way particles move along the field lines, and by how fast they arrive. It is a choreography, invisible to us until the sky reveals it. This light is not steady. It pulses, flares, fades. Sometimes it dances in wide bands. Sometimes it coils like a serpent. Sometimes it flickers so fast it seems to shiver. Scientists call these movements auroral substorms, and they are driven by shifts in the magnetosphere. As solar wind pressure builds, energy is stored in Earth's magnetic tail, the long stretch of field lines trailing away from the sun. Eventually, that energy is released. Field lines snap and reconfigure, like stretched rubber bands let go. Charged particles rush towards the poles, and the sky lights up anew. There are two auroras, the aurora borealis in the north, and the aurora australis in the south. They mirror each other, though not perfectly. Earth's magnetic field is not symmetrical, and solar wind doesn't always strike evenly. But both auroras speak the same language, a language of light born from invisible forces. They remind us that Earth is not isolated. It is part of a system, always interacting with the sun, always responding. The aurora is the evidence of that connection, written softly across the night. Some nights the aurora is quiet, a soft green arch across the horizon. On others it is wild and radiant, bursting into the zenith, casting shadows on the snow. During solar maximum, when the sun is most active, and auroras can be seen far from the poles, in Scotland, in Canada, even in parts of the continental United States. People step outside, surprised by the colour in their sky, unaware that a solar storm millions of kilometres away has sent a message just for them. And even when no one is watching, the aurora still comes. Over icy oceans, over remote forests, above frozen tundra where no light from cities can reach. The sky glows for no audience at all. Perhaps that is part of its beauty. It is not made for us, yet it welcomes us. It continues whether or not we notice. And when we do notice, something opens in us, a sense that the world is bigger, deeper, more alive than we knew. Technology, too, listens to the aurora. Instruments on board satellites measure the charged particles as they arrive. Ground-based magnetometers feel the shifting of Earth's field. Cameras record the dance in time-lapse. Scientists use these data to model space weather, predicting when solar storms might affect communications, satellites, power grids. Because while the aurora is beautiful, it is also a sign of powerful forces at work. The same energy that lights the sky can, in extreme cases, interfere with the tools we depend on, yet we do not fear it. We study it. We follow its patterns. We learn from it. And always, beneath the measurements and forecasts, there is still wonder. Because no photograph, no chart, no video can replace the feeling of standing beneath a living sky, of looking up and seeing the world you thought you knew become something else entirely, a place where light flows like water, where silence hums, where the unseen becomes visible. Children in northern villages grow up with the aurora like a seasonal friend. Elders tell stories beneath its glow. Travellers chase it across frozen highways hoping to catch a glimpse. Artists try to paint it, poets try to describe it, scientists try to measure it. But no one can truly capture it. The aurora is not just a thing to see, it is a thing to feel. It is Earth's breath, visible. It is space arriving. It is the sun remembering us. When the aurora fades, it leaves behind more than darkness. It leaves a quiet, a stillness that settles not just in the air, but in the heart. It's as if something ancient has just passed through, not loudly, not hurriedly, but with a calm that feels like understanding. You might not know the science, the solar wind, the magnetosphere, the charged particles, but you know the feeling. That sense that the world is not only more beautiful than you imagined, but also more connected. The aurora reminds us that we are part of something greater, something that reaches far beyond the sky we can see. The memory of that light lingers, in photographs, yes, in journals and records, but more deeply in stories. Among indigenous peoples of the polar regions, the aurora has always held meaning. In the far north, the Inuit speak of spirits playing in the sky. In Scandinavia, there are tales of mythical warriors, foxes, and omens. These stories are not wrong, even if their details differ from science. They are another way of honouring what the aurora truly is, a sign that the universe is alive, in motion and cycling, if we are willing to listen. We are used to light coming from below, from cities, from lamps, from fires. But the aurora flips the world. It comes from above, from the atmosphere itself. It has no shadow. It casts no warmth. Yet it moves people. It brings them outside on cold nights. It makes them quiet. It brings a kind of awe that doesn't need explanation. Some cry, some laugh, some fall into silence. What they feel is the same, a reminder of how small and how held we are, beneath a sky that sometimes chooses to sing. And even when the aurora ends, its cause remains. The sun continues to breathe. The earth continues to spin, wrapped in its magnetic skin. The two are locked in a kind of conversation, one that takes place in winds and fields, in storms and flows. This dialogue is older than life, older than mountains, older than air itself. The aurora is just the visible part, the place where the invisible becomes momentarily real. A brief unveiling of the bond between star and planet. In that sense, the aurora is not just a light show. It is a letter from the sun, delivered by wind, translated by atoms, and read by our eyes. It carries the signature of space weather, the rhythm of solar cycles, the geometry of magnetic lines. Each display is a unique combination of forces, a solar fingerprint drawn in green and red and violet. And as technology improves, as data deepens, we learn more. We discover how fast the particles move, how high the emissions occur, how the colours change with energy. But knowledge does not replace wonder. It expands it. There are places where auroras are strongest, magnetic poles, places of dark winters and long nights. But light finds its way. Sometimes, after powerful solar events, auroras appear where they are least expected. Over deserts, over cities, over oceans where no one sees. And in those moments the sky is briefly rewritten. Airplanes fly through pale curtains of light. Satellites orbit beneath green halos. Whales swim under flickering stars. These are not myths, these are real. Nature performing quietly for itself, witnessed or not. The aurora also teaches us how delicate Earth's systems are. Our magnetic field, though invisible, is essential. Without it, solar wind would strip away our atmosphere, as it has likely done to Mars. Without it, the aurora would not exist. nor would many of the conditions that make life on Earth possible. The lights we admire are the glow of our protection at work. They are not just beautiful, they are vital. They are the Earth's soft defense painted in colour. There's something else too, something more human. The aurora gives us perspective. When you watch it, you're aware of space in a new way. You see that you live on a planet, that your sky is not a ceiling but a shell, that just beyond that shell is a vastness filled with motion. The aurora is your glimpse into that vastness, your reminder that the edge of space is not far, and that it listens and responds. The sky is not passive, it is active, alive. Even now, auroras may be flickering over the poles, silent and unseen. Somewhere in the Arctic, someone might be stepping outside to look up. Somewhere in the Antarctic, the lights may be flowing over a sea of ice. You don't need to be there to feel it. You only need to remember that they are happening, that above this planet, light moves like breath, responding to a sun 50 million kilometers away. So tonight, or some quiet night to come, step outside. Let the artificial lights be behind you. Let your eyes adjust. Wait. Even if the aurora does not appear, you will feel its possibility. The sense that the sky might at any moment decide to move, that the stars might ripple, that the air might remember colour, that the silence might shimmer. And if the lights do appear, even faintly, even just a soft green line on the horizon, pause. Breathe. Know that what you are seeing is the end of a story that began with the sun, a journey across time and space through fields and winds into atoms and back out again as light. Know that you are watching the sky remember its own electricity, its own language, its own pulse, and when it fades, as all auroras do, carry that memory with you. Not just as a photograph or a story, but as a feeling that the universe is not cold or far, but near, that light listens, that Earth responds, and that you, for one brief moment, were part of their quiet, glowing conversation. The moon does not shine. This is its secret. It does not burn or glow from within. There is no fire in its heart, no flames behind its face. And yet, it lights our nights. It casts silver paths on oceans, paints soft shadows on snow, turns quiet hills into glowing sculptures. It is the second brightest thing in our sky, and still it holds no light of its own. What we see is borrowed, a gift, a reflection, a soft echo of the sun, and somehow this echo feels closer, gentler, more familiar. Moonlight is not just light, it is memory, softened by distance, shaped by silence. When you look at the full moon, you are seeing sunlight that has travelled across space, touched a lifeless surface of dust and stone, and bounced back to meet your eyes. That journey changes it. The harshness of direct sunlight is scattered. The shadows are gentler. The colour cools, the warmth fades. What reaches you is light that has already been somewhere, touched something, reflected and returned. It's not raw, it's remembered. And maybe that's why a moonlight feels different. It's not just illumination, it's a conversation between worlds. The moon itself is quiet. It has no air, no weather, no sound. It is a sphere of stillness, pocked with craters and seas that hold no water. But its surface is textured, covered with fine dust. Regolith. That reflects sunlight in all directions. This dust is not soft. It is sharp, jagged, untouched by wind or rain, and it scatters light in a way that makes the moon appear to glow from every angle. Even when the sun is far off to the side, the moon seems full, round, alive with light. This effect is called opposition surge, a sudden brightening that occurs when shadows disappear and light comes straight back. It's as if the moon knows we are looking and chooses that moment to shine brightest. Yet the moon is not constant. It waxes and wanes. It hides and reveals. Its phases are the result of its position relative to the sun and earth, a slow dance that repeats every month. New moon, crescent, half, gibbous, full. And then the cycle reverses. Each phase is a different reflection, a different portion of sunlight offered back to us. When the moon is new, it turns its dark side toward us, and the night deepens. When it is full, it faces us fully, reflecting as much light as its surface allows. This rhythm has guided tides, sleep harvests, and human stories for thousands of years. The pull of the moon is not just visual, it's gravitational. Its presence tugs at Earth's oceans, lifting and lowering the tides in a cycle that mirrors its orbit. Twice a day, the sea rises and falls, following the moon's gentle call. This same force acts on the land, the air, even your body. You are, after all, mostly water. And though the effect is small, it exists. The moon moves the oceans, it touches your skin. It influences your world, even if you never look up. And still, we look up. We always have. The moon is our oldest companion. Before clocks, we watched it to know time. Before maps, we followed it across the sky. Its face appears unchanged, yet it holds the record of time, every crater, a story of an impact, a moment frozen in dust. Unlike Earth, which renews itself with weather and life, the moon preserves its past. Its light may be borrowed, but its memory is deep. In moonlight, everything changes. Forests become silver, snow turns blue, lakes mirror stars, and the world seems paused as if waiting. This quality, the way moonlight slows the night, is something no sunlight can do. Sunlight energizes. Moonlight hushes. It invites reflection. It opens quiet. Poets have tried to describe it. Painters have tried to capture it. Lovers have walked beneath it. Children have dreamed of flying to it. And all the while, the moon says nothing. It only reflects. This reflection, this quiet giving, is not perfect. The moon's surface absorbs some light. It keeps it, warms slightly, radiates it back slowly as heat. That's why nights with a full moon are not as cold, but most of the light, over 90%, is sent back into space, scattered in all directions. Some of it reaches telescopes, some touches clouds, some lands on rooftops, and some, just a small soft portion, falls on your skin. You do not feel it as heat, you feel it as presence. To be bathed in moonlight is to be touched by a path of light that has travelled from the sun to the moon and back again. A triangle of connection, star, satellite, observer. And in that triangle is something rare. Reflected intimacy. The sun is too bright to look at, but the moon can be stared at, studied, drawn. Its light is indirect and therefore bearable. In that gentleness is a kind of kindness, a reminder that not all beauty is bold. Some is quiet, some is returned. And so we build myths around the moon. We say it changes people, we say it watches over dreams, we say it holds secrets. Maybe it does, maybe those secrets are simply the ones we project, our hopes, our longing, our questions. Maybe it holds our forgotten thoughts in its dust. Or maybe it simply continues silently, reflecting what it can, never asking to be more than a mirror. But what a mirror it is! A mirror that turns sunlight into silver, that turns shadow into shape, that turns night into something more than absence, that, without creating any light of its own, becomes a beacon, a whisper in the dark that says, "You are not alone." The moon does not shine, but it reflects everything that matters. Let yourself wander back through time, through nights long before electricity, before screens, before satellites. There, in the stillness of ancient skies, the moon rose above forests and deserts, glaciers and firelight. It was the brightest thing many ever saw in the dark. Travellers followed it, animals stirred by it, oceans moved to it, Herse, and human hearts again and again returned to it, Shul, wondering. The moon was the first calendar, the first clock, the first light after sunset. Even now its rhythm shapes rituals, fasts, harvests and ceremonies. Its pull is deeper than gravity. It is a presence. When the moon is full, it casts shadows that feel like echoes. They are softer than daylight shadows, with no sharp edges, more like memories of outlines than firm borders. Trees appear taller, hills more quiet, faces more thoughtful. Everything takes on a silvery hue. Not quite white, not quite blue, but something in between, something only the night understands. Even sound seems to change under moonlight. It carries farther, yet feels muted. as if the world has agreed to speak only in whispers while the moon is watching. And the moon always watches, not with eyes, but with presence. One side always faces Earth, locked in what scientists call tidal locking. This means that every moonrise shows us the same familiar face. The same seas, the same craters, the same quiet expression. The far side of the moon, sometimes misnamed the dark side, remains hidden, not because it never receives sunlight, but because it never turns toward us. And so for most of human history, half the moon was a mystery. It wasn't until the space age, with orbiters and astronauts, that we finally saw what was once unseen. Still, the near side is enough to stir wonder. Look closer, and you'll see great plains, dark patches called Wee Maria, once thought to be oceans. These were formed by ancient volcanic flows, long-cooled, smooth and vast. Around them rise brighter highlands, speckled with craters, each a frozen explosion from a time when space was more violent. The largest of these scars can be seen with the naked eye. Together they form a pattern, so a face, a rabbit, a man, different shapes in different cultures. The moon invites us to see ourselves in it, to project, to imagine, and so we tell stories. Some say a woman lives in the moon, her figure bent in sadness or waiting. Others see a rabbit pounding herbs, or a child who flew too high. Some say the moon once loved the earth but was pushed away. Others say it is the eye of the sky, never blinking. These stories may not be scientific, but they are true in a different way. They speak of longing, reflection, cycles, silence, all things the moon carries without speaking. In every culture, the moon has been a mirror not just of sunlight, but of the human soul. Even in science, the moon has shaped how we understand reflection. Its surface is not smooth like glass, but rough and dusty. Yet it reflects enough light to read by, to walk by, to guide boats across open seas. This is called albedo, the measure of how much light a surface reflects. The moon's albedo is modest, about 12%. For comparison, fresh snow reflects almost all light, charcoal almost none. The moon, then, is not bright because it reflects well, but because it is near and open, always facing us, always returning what it can. That modest reflection is enough to guide. Farmers once planned their planting by it. Fishermen read the tides. Wolves howled toward it. And poets, endless poets, reached for it as symbol, muse, and mystery. It has been tied to love and loneliness, madness and clarity, cycles and change, because the moon never stays still. It rises later each night, changes shape, vanishes, returns. It is dependable in its change, faithful in its rhythm. Watching it is a reminder that nothing lasts and nothing is lost, only transformed. Even today, we turn to the moon. During eclipses, when the Earth's shadow falls upon it, we see our own silhouette moving across its face. In that moment, it's hard not to feel the curve of our planet, the presence of our orbit, the poetry of three celestial bodies aligning. Total lunar eclipses turn the moon red. Blood moons, some call them. Not because the moon burns, but because Earth's atmosphere bends sunlight around its edges, filtering out the blues and casting only the deeper hues onto the moon's surface. It is a shared event, visible to millions, yet profoundly intimate. There is power in that shared gaze, in knowing that someone else far away is looking at the same moon. Maybe in another city, another country, maybe someone you've never met, maybe someone you miss. The moon becomes a meeting place, a reminder that the sky connects us, no matter the distances in between. It is a soft unity, not forced, not loud but gently constant. A familiar face in the dark. And there is the silence of the moon, a silence that is not absence but presence. It does not speak, yet it listens. It does not shine, yet it glows. It does not change quickly, yet it always changes. In this it teaches something rare, how to be steady while becoming, how to return again and again with softness, how to light a path not by shining alone, but by reflecting something greater. The moon teaches us to be mirrors. Let yourself imagine for a moment standing alone in a field at night. No city nearby, no headlights, just stars above, wind in the grass, and the moon full and quiet rising over the horizon. It spills light onto the earth like a memory unfolding. It does not rush, it does not demand, it simply arrives. And as you stand there, your shadow stretching beside you, you understand something without words, that this light is not just physics, it is feeling, it is history, it is a gentle thread connecting sun to moon to earth to you. It is the echo of sunlight, softened into peace. There is something in moonlight that feels like memory, not the sharp kind that names dates or places, but the quiet, wordless kind that stirs when a breeze touches your face or a familiar scent returns. Moonlight doesn't speak, yet it reminds. It doesn't illuminate with urgency, but with patience. It touches things lightly, rooftops, tree trunks, the edges of your window, and in doing so brings forward a sense of stillness that has always been there, just waiting to be seen. It is not light that demands, it is light that invites. In every cycle the moon disappears, only to return. The new moon is dark, a night without reflection, a time for rest. And then the light comes back day by day, a little more each evening, a crescent, a half, a gibbous, and full again. This pattern is ancient and unbroken. It has continued without fail for over 4 billion years, long before humans stood under it, long before Earth had life, and long after we are gone, the moon will still orbit, still reflect, still remember. It is a rhythm deeper than history, a breath drawn by the sky itself. And even though the moon's light is borrowed, it affects life on Earth in profound ways. Sea turtles hatch under moonlight, timing their journey to the ocean with the light's presence. Coral reefs synchronize their spawning with the full moon. Certain flowers bloom only at night, turning their faces to that quiet glow. Even in our modern world full of artificial brightness, studies show that sleep patterns shift with the lunar cycle. We may pretend not to notice, but our bodies remember. Somewhere within us, the moon still matters. It also matters to dreams. For centuries, the moon has been tied to the world of sleep, of visions, of things just beyond our waking grasp. People speak of strange dreams on full moons, of deeper sleep on darker nights. It could be biology, it could be myth. But either way, the moon becomes part of our inner world. Its cycles mirror our own. Times of clarity, times of mystery, times of becoming. Just as the moon changes, so do we. And like the moon, we often find ourselves returning to memories, to moments, to quiet truths we thought we'd forgotten. This is why moonlight is often described as gentle. It's not just because it lacks the heat of the sun, but because it offers without forcing. It illuminates without overwhelming. You can walk in moonlight without squinting. You can sit in it for hours and never feel burned. It shows just enough. It leaves room for wonder, for imagination, for peace. And in that peace there is something healing. A sense that not everything must be sharp or fast or bright to be powerful. Some things, the most lasting things, arrive slowly and stay. Even the astronauts who visited the moon describe it with reverence. Though its surface is dry and silent, they speak of a strange beauty, the contrast of black space and shining earth, the play of sunlight on dust, the silence so complete it seems to hum. And when they returned, they brought not just rock samples, but awe. A new understanding of scale, of fragility, of connection. The moon became not just a goal, but a reflection of what we are, what we can do, and how far we've come. But perhaps most of all, the moon reminds us how reflection works. It teaches us that we do not have to produce light to offer light, that sometimes the most powerful thing we can do is receive, soften, and share. Like the moon, we can reflect the kindness we are shown. We can reflect the strength we are given. We can be mirrors for one another, not perfect, not polished, but faithful in our turning, consistent in our return. The moon is a witness. It saw the first ocean rise, the first leaf unfold, the first fire kindled. It saw cities rise and fall, watched generations pass beneath its gaze. And though we've changed, though the world has spun through eras and extinctions, the moon has remained. It has never rushed, never hesitated. It moves in its path with quiet certainty, casting its glow in silence, reminding us of time, of patience, of gentle power. And even when clouds cover it, the moon is still there. Just as memory remains even when we cannot recall, just as love endures even when unspoken, just as light continues even when we cannot see it. That is moonlight's deepest secret, that it is always waiting to return. So tonight, or another night, When the world grows quiet and the sky grows deep, step outside, look up, let your eyes find the familiar shape. Let its glow remind you of everything it carries, the light of the sun, the rhythm of tides, the echoes of our ancestors, the dreams you've forgotten. Let it remind you that you are not alone, that even in darkness there is reflection, that even in silence there is presence, and that even the faintest glow can change the night. The moon does not shine, but somehow it still lights the way. Not everything light touches becomes visible. In fact, the presence of light is most often understood by its absence. A tree stands in sunlight, but it is the shadow that draws your eye, the cool patch beneath its branches, the shape it stretches across the ground like a signature in ink. Light reveals the world, but shadows define it. They are not merely the opposite of brightness, they are the quiet consequence. Where light cannot go, shadow lives. And in that space something subtle happens. Perception deepens. From the moment light began its journey in the early universe, it has been met by things that interrupt it. Dust, gas, stone, leaves, water, skin. Each of these things receives light in a different way. Some reflect it back, some absorb it, some scatter it in countless directions, and where light is blocked, a shadow is born. Not an object, not a thing, but a shape, a glimpse into brightness. It is not made of darkness, it is made of interrupted light. To understand shadows is to understand boundaries. Imagine the moon casting its shadow on Earth during a solar eclipse. The shadow is narrow, fleeting, a precise alignment of sun, moon and Earth. But in that shadow, day becomes night. Temperatures fall, animals quiet, people look up in awe. The light returns a minute later, but the memory of the shadow lingers, a moment when the sun disappeared, not because it failed, but because something stood in front of it. In the natural world, shadows serve many purposes. They offer shelter from heat. They signal time through the lengthening and shortening of day. They create contrast that helps us see edges, depth, motion. Without shadows, the world would be flat, washed in constant light, without texture. It is the shadow that gives form. Artists know this well. They study where light falls, but they sketch the shadows, the places where light does not reach. That is where emotion lives in an image. That is where the story hides. And yet, shadows are not fixed. They move. As the earth turns, the sun's angle changes, and shadows stretch, shorten, disappear. A single tree might draw a dozen different shapes across the same patch of earth in one day. A mountain's shadow moves slowly across valleys, marking the hours not with sound, but with light's retreat. In this way, shadows are time made visible. They are the clockwork of the sun, rendered softly across the skin of the world. Some shadows are sharp, the outline of a hand held against a wall. Others are diffuse, the blur beneath a cloud. The difference comes from the size of the light source and its distance. A small, close light casts hard edges. A large, distant one, like the sun, casts soft penumbras. These fringes, where shadow and light blend, are where ambiguity lives, where things are not fully seen or fully hidden, where perception softens into suggestion, and in those places, the imagination begins to play. Shadows also reveal what cannot be seen directly. When light bends around an object, it creates pattern, rings, crescents, or diffractions. Scientists use this principle to discover distant worlds. When a planet passes in front of a star, it casts a faint shadow. The light dims slightly, and from that small dip in brightness, we learn about size, orbit, atmosphere. A shadow thousands of light years away becomes knowledge. The unseen becomes understood. In the microscopic world, shadows behave differently. Light, at that scale, acts both like a wave and a particle. Shadows can bend, interfere, even create patterns of brightness called diffraction, fringes. It challenges the idea of what a shadow is. Not simply darkness, but a pattern of interference, a story told in absence and edge. Even in quantum mechanics, the shadow of an electron's behavior can tell us more than the particle itself. We watch the places it could have been, and from that we glimpse truth. But beyond physics, shadows live in human experience. They are metaphors for memory, for the past, for the things we do not understand. We speak of a shadow falling over a heart, a shadow of doubt, a shadow of grief. These are not just poetic phrases. They reflect the way light and its absence mirror our emotions. Joy shines, sadness obscures, yet even sadness creates form, a new awareness, a deepened sense of self. In this way, shadows are not the enemy of light, they are its companion. Light cannot be fully understood without its absence. Just as we appreciate warmth more after cold, we notice brightness more after dark. Shadows sharpen awareness. They create contrast, they give us pause, and in giving us pause, they give us perspective. The world is not only seen through what is illuminated, but through what is hidden, what waits in the dim places, what whispers instead of shouts. We often chase light, and rightly so, but perhaps we should also learn to sit with shadow, to understand that what is obscured is not always dangerous, that what is dim is not always lost. Some truths live in soft edges, some beauty lives in subtlety, the quiet curve of a cheek in twilight, the soft grey under a tree at noon, the cool relief beneath a stone. These are the places where light pauses, and where we are invited to pause as well. So next time you walk beneath the sun, look down. Watch your shadow move beside you. It is not separate from you. It is your companion, the dark shape born from light's refusal to pass through you. It is proof that you are here, that light has noticed you, that you are part of the interaction, part of the moment. A figure drawn in contrast, defined not just by light, but by where light cannot go. Let us step deeper into the realm where light softens and disappears, not into total darkness, but into that in-between space where shadows live and stretch. These are not voids, they are textures. When you hold your hand over a surface under sunlight, the outline you see below is not just your shape, it's the history of your presence, drawn by the sun's refusal to pass through. It moves with you, lags behind you, sometimes lengthening, sometimes curling beneath your feet. It says, "You're here," in silence. Think of a forest at dusk. Sunlight breaks through the trees in long golden lines, but between them deep shadows gather. These shadows are not interruptions, they are part of the story. They define the beams of light. They frame the moment. They make it possible to see the light for what it is, not everywhere, not constant, but particular and fleeting. Without the shadows between the branches, you wouldn't notice the light at all. It would be everywhere and nowhere. But because of contrast, because of shape, the light becomes visible. Shadows make it real. Architecture understands this. The angles of buildings, the depth of arches, the placement of columns, all are designed not only for structure but for shadow. A window recessed into stone will cast longer, deeper shadows than one flush with the surface. That shadow, in turn, makes the space feel cooler, more private, more intimate. The same room lit evenly from all directions can feel flat and open, but one lit from a single source with shadows stretching across the floor suddenly holds mystery, invitation, emotion. We don't just live in light, we live in its interplay with shadow. Artists from every culture have used this truth. In Japanese aesthetics, there is a term, kei, that means shadow, and its role is considered essential. In the philosophy of wabi-sabi, shadow is not something to be removed, but something to be cherished. A teacup is not just about its shape, but the way light falls inside its curve. A room is not made peaceful by brightness, but by the way the walls hold soft, shifting shadows that invite reflection. This is not an absence of light. It is a deliberate allowance for quiet. Even in literature and storytelling, the shadow is vital. A hero's journey is shaped by what lies in shadow, the unknown, the feared, the misunderstood. Every bright triumph gains depth when we see what it overcame, and every joyful moment holds weight because of what came before, a period of doubt, of darkness, of shadow. In this way, shadows become emotional terrain. They are not barriers, but bridges. They help us cross from simplicity to meaning. In biology, shadows are a part of perception. The human eye relies on them to understand depth and shape. The retina processes differences in brightness to judge how far away an object is, how round it is, whether it's moving or still. Shadows tell us where to step. They help us read expressions. A small change in the shading of a face can signal a smile or a frown, joy or concern. Photographers chase shadows as much as they chase light. A portrait lit from the side reveals more about a person than one lit from the front. It shows texture, dimension, honesty. In space, shadows grow enormous. The moon's shadow during a solar eclipse is over 100 kilometers wide. The shadow of Earth stretches into space like a long, dark cone. Satellites pass in and out of it, feeling its chill. The International Space Station, orbiting high above, crosses from light to shadow and back again every 45 minutes. Astronauts see 16 sunrises and 16 sunsets each day. To them, shadows are not just visual, they are lived, cold, quick, dramatic. When the sun vanishes, temperature drops in moments. It is not the absence of power, but the withdrawal of touch. And yet even in shadow there is light. Not direct, not obvious, but scattered, reflected, ambient. It bounces off walls, off clouds, off particles in the air. That's why we see in twilight. That's why even on cloudy days the world doesn't go dark. Light has persistence, it seeks paths, it finds ways to soften corners, to reach gently around edges. It doesn't retreat fully, it lingers. Some animals have evolved to live in shadows. Owls, whose feathers are so soft they do not disturb the air, hunt in the dim. Jaguars, with fur patterned to mimic leaves and shade, become invisible among branches. Human ancestors too learned to navigate by shadow, to know when to move, to know where shelter lay. Even today our circadian rhythms, the cycles of waking and sleeping, are tuned not to absolute light, but to the rising and falling gradients of brightness and shadow. Dawn and dusk matter more than noon. In technology, shadows are used in design and function. Solar panels must consider shading. Urban planners design cities to maximize light and minimize harsh shadow. Digital artists create simulated lighting environments where virtual shadows must behave like real ones, or the illusion collapses. Even artificial intelligence learns to recognize shapes not just by their outlines, but by their shadows. A world without shadows looks wrong, not because it's too bright, but because it's too flat. And still, with all our understanding, a shadow holds a trace of mystery. We turn on lights to chase it. We build fires to keep it at bay. But we also build caves and alcoves and rooms where shadows are welcome, where a bit of dimness calms us, because light alone is never enough. It is contrast that comforts, brightness and softness, certainty and pause, the known and the waiting to be known. A shadow is not a mistake, it is a part of the whole. It is where light steps back and invites you to look more closely, to wonder, to see not just what is illuminated, but what is shaped by illumination. In that shape lies meaning, in that meaning lies truth, and in that truth, something very quiet, a whisper that not everything must be seen to be understood. As night falls, and the last golden threads of daylight slip below the horizon, shadows begin to stretch and blend. They grow longer, softer, until the world is held in a quiet blue-grey. In this soft light, everything looks slightly different, familiar but altered, touched by something slower than time. This is the hour when even still objects seem to whisper. The trees, the walls, the path beneath your feet, they no longer shout their form in bright outlines. Instead, they lean into shadow, into suggestion, into a language that asks not to be solved, but simply seen. Children often fear shadows, thinking them to be alive, and perhaps in a way they are. Not alive like a heartbeat, but alive like an idea. They shift, they respond, they grow and vanish. A shadow only exists when light touches something that cannot pass it through. It is born from interaction. And because of this, every shadow is unique, shaped by the light source, the object, and the surface it falls upon. It cannot be copied. Even if repeated 1,000 times, it will never be exactly the same. It is a moment of presence, fleeting and specific. Even our own shadows remind us we are part of the story. As the sun moves across the sky, our shadow leads, follows, stretches, contracts. In the early morning, it moves ahead of us like a guide. At midday, it tucks beneath our feet. In evening, it lags behind like a memory. Watching your shadow move across the same ground you walk is like watching time walk with you. Silent, steady, never turning back. Some of the most powerful natural events are moments of profound shadow. During a total solar eclipse, the moon's shadow sweeps across the earth like a brush dipped in ink. Animals go still, the air cools, winds appear. In that brief darkness, day forgets itself. People weep, not because the sun is gone, but because they have never felt it go missing so completely. The shadow reminds them that light is not forever, and in that reminder, they feel the fragility of the moment and its beauty. Shadow also invites introspection. It creates spaces that ask us to look inward. When you sit in a room dimly lit, your mind turns quieter. Thoughts rise more slowly. Conversations soften. It's not just because it's darker, it's because there is less distraction, less command. Bright light demands attention. Shadow allows stillness. That stillness makes room for thought, for feeling, for rest. This is why candlelight feels calming, why libraries feel hushed, why night often becomes the time when the heart speaks clearest. And in the vastness of the cosmos, shadows stretch in ways that alter space itself. Massive celestial bodies like black holes bend the very path of light. Around them, shadows form not just behind but around a ring of absence called a shadow cone, where photons are swallowed entirely. The famous image of a black hole captured by the Event Horizon telescope showed not the object itself, but its shadow, a dark circle ringed with light, formed by the bending and disappearance of photons too near to escape. In that image, we saw the first picture not of something, but of its refusal to be seen. Shadow then becomes a kind of truth-teller. It does not lie about what is in front of the light, it shows it shaped and softened. It teaches us that knowledge comes not only from brightness but from boundary. We know a thing by how it limits the passage of light, and that limit gives it form. A mountain casts a long shadow, so does a tree, so does your hand. And in each shadow there is a map, not of the object itself, but of the way it interacts with light. Even emotionally, we speak of shadow not as the enemy, but as the part of ourselves that waits to be understood. Psychologists refer to the shadow self, the hidden aspects of our personality, our fears, our untold desires. To explore that self is not to reject it, but to integrate it. To walk towards our own shadows is to learn where our brightness meets its edge. This is not weakness, it is awareness. And awareness is the first light of compassion for ourselves and others. In rituals around the world, shadow is sacred. In temples lit by narrow beams, in dances performed at twilight, in lantern festivals where silhouettes tell stories on rice paper walls, these shadows do not take away from the experience. They are the experience. They allow the imagination to enter, to interpret, to participate. In shadow, the world becomes a collaboration between what is seen and what is sensed. A space where mystery is not a problem, but a presence. So the next time you are walking at dusk, notice the shape of your own shadow. Notice how it flows over steps, walls, leaves, how it moves faster when you run, how it flickers when light breaks through trees. That shadow is your echo, not cast in sound, but in absence. It is light acknowledging you by shaping what it cannot pass through, and in that gesture is something deeply tender, proof that you are here, you are solid, you are seen. Shadows are not the opposite of light. They are the language of its limits. They do not say there is no light here, but light was here and met something real. That is their gift. They tell us that not everything must be bright to be understood, not everything must be exposed to be meaningful. There is wisdom in what is withheld, softness in what is not shown. Maybe that is the final beauty of shadow, that it does not try to shine, but helps others do so. That it does not speak loudly, but creates the space where light becomes visible. That it is not absence, but presence in a different form, a quieter form, one that reminds us that light to be known must also be missed, and that in missing it, we find something equally vital, a deeper way of seeing. Close your eyes and imagine colour, not just red or blue, but the richness of a green forest after rain, the gold of morning sunlight slipping through a curtain, the soft lavender that settles into dusk. These are not just pigments, they are feelings, moments, quiet flashes of memory made visible. But here's a secret. Colour is not in the world. It is in us. The world reflects light, and your eyes turn that reflection into meaning. Every colour you've ever seen was waiting in the light, and every colour you've ever loved was painted by a photon shaped by perception. Light is more than brightness. It is a spectrum, a range of waves, each with its own energy, its own length. Some are too long for us to see, like infrared, which we feel as warmth. Some are too short, like ultraviolet, which we feel only in sunburns or the glow of certain minerals. But in the middle, there is a narrow band of light that the human eye can detect. This is visible light. And inside it lives the rainbow, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. These are the colours we see, but they are only a tiny fraction of what light can be. Colour happens when light interacts with matter. A red apple is not red because it creates that colour. It is red because it absorbs every other wavelength and reflects only red. That reflected light enters your eyes, touches your retina, and triggers a response. Your brain completes the story. In this way, colour is not a property of the object, but of the interaction between object, light, and observer. It is an agreement between physics and perception, and in that agreement, beauty is born. Every surface around you is constantly playing with light. Some scatter it, like snow, some absorb it, like asphalt, some bend it like water. A peacock's feathers are not vividly blue and green because of pigments, but because of the structural colour, microscopic layers that interfere with light waves, amplifying some colours while cancelling others. A soap bubble shows rainbows not because it is made of many colours, but because thin films of water bend and reflect light at different thicknesses. The colour changes with angle, with light, with movement. It is never fixed, always becoming. Even darkness is full of colour, not to the eye but to the spectrum. In a room with no light, your eyes may slowly begin to see shapes, shades, a soft purple-grey or known as Eigengrau. The brain's interpretation of visual sequence. If light returns, colours bloom again, not because they were created anew, but because they were always there, waiting. Light simply reveals them, and just as quickly, when light fades, the colour folds itself away. It does not vanish, it retreats. Your eyes are tuned to this dance. Inside the retina are two types of cells, rods, which detect light and dark, and our cones, which detect colour. There are three types of cones, one each for short blue, medium green, and long red wavelengths. All the colours you see are built from the blending of these signals. It's like a painter with only three primary colours creating 1,000 shades. But not everyone sees colour the same way. Some people have more sensitive cones, some have fewer, some see colours differently, and still each version is real, each perception valid, because colour is not what is, it is what is experienced. And experience is shaped by emotion. We speak of feeling blue, of seeing red, of being green with envy. Colours become metaphors. They carry emotion not because of their wavelengths, but because of what we've learnt to associate with them. Yellow is warmth, joy, caution. Blue is calm, sadness, trust. Red is love, anger, urgency. These are not rules, but rhythms, cultural, personal, shifting. A colour may comfort one person and unsettle another. It may spark memory or silence. It may glow quietly or hum like a chord. Plants too use colour, not to feel, but to signal. Flowers bloom in purples and reds to draw in pollinators. Fruits turn bright as they ripen to attract animals. Leaves change in autumn, not because they are dying, but because the green fades first, revealing the pigments that were always there, the oranges, the russets, the golds. These colours were waiting all along, quiet beneath the chlorophyll, ready to speak when the time was right. In the ocean, light changes colour with depth. Red disappears first, then orange, then yellow, until only blue and violet remain. That's why the deep sea looks blue, not because the water is blue, but because that's all the light that reaches it. At even greater depths, there is no colour at all. Creatures there make their own bioluminescence, of flashes of green and blue created by chemical reactions, lighting the dark not with reflection, but with life itself. They are painters in the deepest night, casting colour into places the sun cannot reach. And in the sky, the colours change with the day. A blue sky is blue because of more Rayleigh scattering, the way shorter wavelengths scatter more than longer ones. When the sun is high, blue scatters across the dome. At sunrise and sunset, the angle changes. Blue light scatters out and reds and oranges remain. The sky burns with colour, not because it is on fire, but because light is being sifted, sorted, softened. Each sunset is not a performance, it is physics made poetry. In every part of nature, colour reveals and conceals. It draws attention and creates camouflage. It helps birds find mates and helps insects hide from predators. It shapes how we eat, what we buy, where we rest. It affects heart rate, sleep, even memory. Entire industries are built on understanding how colour influences feeling, and yet for all its power it remains delicate, dependent on light, on context, on the eye of the beholder. So the next time you see a colour that stirs something in you, a sky painted violet, a leaf lit gold, a piece of cloth that seems to hold a story, remember this: that colour was born in light, shaped by matter, and completed by you. It is not static. It is not owned. It is an invitation, a shared moment between light and life, seen through the lens of wonder. Everywhere you look, colour waits to be awakened. In the folds of a petal, in the glaze of a ceramic cup, in the worn fibres of an old coat, light traces its fingerprints. It arrives quietly, slipping between clouds, bouncing off walls, spilling across glass, and with it the world unfolds in hue. We rarely pause to think about how miraculous this is, that something with no weight, no mass, no voice can turn stone to gold, sky to sapphire, water to silver. And yet light does this every day, tirelessly, tenderly, painting the world for us in silence. Some colours are born not from surfaces, but from layers. A butterfly's wing, for example, does not contain blue pigment. The blue is created by microscopic structures that interfere with light, causing some wavelengths to reflect more intensely. This is called iridescence, and it shifts with angle and light, making colour that dances rather than stays. The same happens in beetles, in fish scales, in oil floating on water. These colours are not simply seen, they shimmer. They speak of movement, of mystery. They cannot be held, only watched. Colour also tells time. A green banana slowly yellows as starches convert to sugar. Iron turns from grey to red as it rusts. Copper deepens to green when exposed to rain and air. A sunrise bleeds into morning blue. A candle's flame moves from white to orange to dim. Each shift is a record, a story of transformation. Time wears colour like a robe, each fold a different shade. Painters try to capture this, the warmth of the early light, the cool hush of evening, but even their finest pigments are still imitations of the real thing, light in motion. And motion too plays with colour. When an object moves quickly toward you, its light shifts slightly toward blue. Blue shift. When it moves away, the light shifts red. Red shift. This effect, though tiny in everyday life, becomes vast across galaxies. Astronomers measure redshift to understand how fast stars and galaxies are moving away from us. The greater the redshift, the farther back in time the light began. In this way, colour becomes not just a sensation, but a measurement, a map of motion, distance, history. Even in silence, colour speaks. In ancient caves, people left handprints in ochre and charcoal, reds and blacks still vivid after tens of thousands of years. In temples, stained glass windows filtered sunlight into holy blues and scarlets. In festivals, powders of every hue are tossed into the air, staining skin and sky alike. In mourning, some cultures wear white, others black. In celebration, we choose bright colours, shimmering fabrics, painted banners. These choices are more than decoration. They are language. They are a way of saying what cannot be said with words. And light always is the ink of that language. Without it, red is not red. Blue is not blue. They are potential, not presence. In total darkness, a ruby is grey. A sunflower is silent. Even the most vibrant object needs light to be seen. That's why colour is not just about surface, it is about interaction. When you see a red wall, what you are truly seeing is every other wavelength absorbed, and only red returned. The wall keeps the rest and gives you red. It is a gift, a selection, a choice made by matter and light together. The eyes that receive this gift are not passive, they interpret, they compensate. In the dim, your brain adjusts, trying to keep colour consistent, a phenomenon called colour constancy. This is why a white shirt still looks white under yellow indoor lights or under a blue sky. Your brain is balancing the colours, correcting the input. It guesses what the object should look like, and usually it's right, but sometimes it gets tricked, as with optical illusions, or that famous photo of a dress that some saw as white and gold, others as blue and black. Same image, different brains, different stories of light. This subjectivity doesn't make colour less real. It makes it more personal. Each colour you see is shaped by your biology, your memory, your mood. A colour that reminds one person of joy might bring another to tears. That's not error, it's poetry. Colour is a collaboration between the world and the one witnessing it. And just like poetry, it doesn't need to be explained to be felt. You know what blue feels like. You know what yellow means. Not because someone told you, but because light told you again and again across your life. And yet not all colour is visible. Bees see ultraviolet patterns in flowers that we cannot. Snakes detect infrared from warm bodies in the dark. Birds can see more colours than we can imagine. Their retinas tuned to a richer world. What is colour to them? What does a sunset look like in ultraviolet? What does a flower say when seen through their eyes? These questions remain unanswered, but they remind us, our spectrum is not the whole story. We see only a sliver of what light can do. Still, in that sliver we find wonder. In a bowl of fruit, in the eyes of someone you love, in the changing sky above a quiet street. Colour lives in these moments. It does not shout, it waits. In the folds of light, in the curve of an edge, in the soft blush of evening. It asks nothing but presence. It gives everything in return. Colour is not a thing you own. It is an event. It happens when light touches matter, and that light touches you. It is a moment, a message, a miracle repeated endlessly every time you open your eyes. Imagine a world where light has not yet arrived. Early morning before dawn, a quiet room before a candle is lit. The ocean floor where no sunbeam reaches. Here the colours still exist, but they sleep. They wait not for creation, but for invitation. And when light finally arrives, gently and without announcement, the world wakes in hue. A wall is no longer just a wall, and it becomes ivory or clay or gold. A face becomes rose-touched or moon-pale. A blade of grass turns from outline to emerald. All of it and everything around you that waits for light to name its colour. And yet this naming is never final. Colour changes with angle, with texture, with context. A grey shirt under one light looks lavender under another. A car's metallic paint shifts with the sun's position. A lake is green in spring, steel blue in winter, silver under moonlight. None of these are lies. They're all true. Because colour is not fixed, it is relational. A living agreement between light, surface and sight. In that agreement there is a kind of grace. Colour always responds. It never refuses to become if given the chance. Think of a prism, that simple wedge of glass or crystal. White light enters one side and splits, not into something new, but into what was always there. The rainbow inside white light becomes visible only when bent, slowed, stretched. This is not a trick, it is a revelation. Dispersion it's called, the separation of wavelengths by angle. Red bends the least, violet the most. Between them a spectrum. This is not just physics, it is metaphor. Sometimes the most beautiful parts of a thing become visible only when it is slowed down, broken open, seen from the right angle. Nature does this all the time. Rainbows are sunlight refracted and reflected in raindrops. Halos are ice crystals bending moonlight high in the atmosphere. Even the iridescence of butterfly wings or oil slicks is caused by light bouncing between layers. What we see as colour is often the result of light being caught, redirected, delayed. In that delay, beauty is born. In that scattering, something hidden is shown. And in our own lives, colour plays a quiet, steady role. We choose the colours of our clothes, our walls, our notebooks, not always for logic but for feeling. A blue room calms, a red scarf excites, a green park soothes after a long day inside. These effects are subtle but real. Our brains associate colour with meaning, and the body follows. It's not just cultural, it's evolutionary. Green signalled water, growth, life. Red signalled fruit, heat, danger. Blue signalled open sky or deep water, vastness, coolness, calm. These meanings shape our responses still, in ways we may not even notice. And in sleep, even with eyes closed, colour lingers. Some people dream in full colour, others in soft monochrome. What decides this? No one fully knows. Perhaps memory, perhaps mood. But in those dreams, colour becomes part of the story, just as it is in waking life. A background that's not passive but emotional. A red door, a blue sky, a yellow dress. These choices in dreams matter. They echo the language of waking light. But what happens when light fades? At twilight, the world leans into softness. The contrast lowers. edges blur. The warmth of the setting sun wraps the world in amber, then rose, then a pale silver. This sequence is not rushed. It is tender. Dusk is when the world unbuttons itself from sharpness. The harsh outlines of the day soften, and in that softening everything becomes gentler. It's why twilight feels like a sigh, like a story nearly finished, like memory finding its place. Even complete darkness has its palette. To someone who's sat long enough in a dark room, colour returns in whispers. Not vivid, but present. Hints of blue, of grey, of shapes remembered more than seen. The mind, always searching, fills in where light has left off. This is not a failure. It is imagination meeting absence with presence. The world never turns off. It simply slows its speaking. And when morning comes again, it does not shout. It reveals. Slowly the world comes back into view. Not all at once, but colour by colour. The sky lightens, the grass glows, faces brighten, the world returns, and we return with it, awoken not just by brightness, but by hue. This return happens every day, often unnoticed, and yet it's one of the most consistent gifts the universe offers us, the chance to see again. So if you ever wonder what colour really is, remember this. It is not a thing that lives in objects, but a bridge. A soft handshake between energy and experience. It is light slowed down, matter revealed, vision given form. It is not owned, but shared. And in every colour you see is a whisper. I am here, you are here, let us meet. Colour does not need to last forever to be real. A sunset fades, a leaf falls, a dress is tucked away, but the feeling of those colours, the warmth, the cool, the spark, lives on, stored not in the object but in the one who saw. In that way, colour is not a fact, it is a memory. A gentle flame lit by light, carried by vision, kept alive by wonder. And every day, as light returns, that flame is lit again. Long before galaxies spun in their graceful spirals, before stars flickered their first flames, before any planet had oceans or skies, there was a moment when the universe changed forever. Not with a sound, but with a glow. It was the moment when light was finally set free. For nearly 400,000 years after the Big Bang, the universe was not dark in the way we understand darkness now. It was bright, but that brightness could not travel. Light was trapped, tangled in a hot, dense fog of particles. The universe glowed, but that glow went nowhere. It was everywhere and nowhere all at once, like trying to see through the heart of a cloud lit from within. In that early time, the universe was like a child still learning to breathe. It was dense, hot, filled with a plasma of electrons and protons. Photons, the particles of light, moved only a short distance before crashing into an electron and being scattered. Again and again this happened. Like voices lost in a crowded room, light had no clear path. There was no transparency, no vision, only radiant noise. Scientists call this time the opaque era, a period when light existed, but could not yet speak to us. But as the universe expanded, it cooled. Slowly, gently, temperature dropped, and as it did, something miraculous began to happen. Electrons, once too energetic to settle, began to calm. They found protons and held on. Hydrogen atoms were born, tiny, neutral, quiet. And with that neutrality came a new freedom. No longer did photons bounce endlessly from one particle to another. Now they could travel. They could go forward. The universe, once fogged with heat, became transparent. This moment is called recombination, and it is one of the most beautiful turning points in cosmic history. The light that broke free then is still moving. It has never stopped. It travels in all directions, through everything, filling the universe with its soft whisper. We call it the cosmic microwave background, the afterglow of the Big Bang stretched thin over billions of years by the expansion of space itself. It is not a beam, not a flash, but a bath, an all-encompassing light so faint now that it can only be detected with special instruments. But it is there, always, like a memory that never forgets. This light does not shine like sunlight or fire. It does not flicker or dazzle. It hums, a soft warmth just a few degrees above absolute zero permeating the cosmos. It is uniform almost, but not perfectly. In some places, it is just a tiny bit warmer or cooler. These tiny differences, measured in millionths of a degree, are the fingerprints of the earliest structure. They show us where matter began to gather, where gravity would pull, where galaxies would one day form. They are the seeds of everything, and they came from light finally being allowed to move. It is astonishing to think that everything we now see, the stars, the planets, the trees, and ourselves, began in a universe that could not see itself. That light, which now defines so much of how we understand the world, was once a prisoner, and its release was not explosive. It was quiet, a slow settling, a soft unlocking, a change not in brightness, but in openness. And from that openness came the possibility of vision. We often think of beginnings as loud, with fanfare or sudden change. But the universe teaches us that some of the most important beginnings happen gently, not in a bang, but in a calm, not in brightness, but in clarity. When the universe became transparent, it did not become full of stars overnight. It became full of light's memory. And that memory, drifting still through space, is the oldest light we will ever see. Scientists have mapped this background radiation in exquisite detail. Satellites like COBE, WMAP, and Planck have measured its tiny fluctuations, creating images of the infant universe, a soft, mottled sphere of faint light and promise. Looking at these maps is like looking into the eyes of a newborn and seeing not just a moment, but a future. In those warm and cool spots are the echoes of structure, of motion, of change yet to come. The universe was not yet complex, but it was ready. And though this light is everywhere, we do not see it with our eyes. It is too stretched, too cooled, shifted into microwave wavelengths by billions of years of cosmic expansion. But if we had the right eyes, if we could see in microwaves, we would walk through a world glowing softly in every direction. No shadows, no source, just the gentle afterglow of everything beginning. This light, more than any star or galaxy, connects us to the start. It was there before atoms knew how to build, before time had found its rhythm. It is not just a scientific relic. It is a presence. It fills every room, every space between galaxies, every quiet place you've ever been. And though it carries no image, it carries information, not about what is, but about what was becoming. It is light as witness, light as messenger, light as the universe's first freedom. And in its journey, it has touched everything. It has passed through clusters of galaxies, bent slightly by gravity. It has cooled and stretched, becoming redder, softer, slower. It has aged without fading, and still it moves, not to arrive anywhere, but because that is what it was born to do, to go, to shine, to remember. To follow the journey of this ancient light is to follow the unfolding of the universe itself. After the moment of transparency, when photons were finally free, they began to drift outward through a universe that was still young, still quiet, still waiting. The light did not choose a path. There were no paths to choose yet. No stars to guide by, no planets to touch. Only expanding space, vast and unmarked. Yet even in that emptiness, light moved. Always forward, always out. As the universe expanded, it carried this light with it, like breath exhaled from the lungs of time. The expansion did not stretch like cloth, but like music played more slowly, each note drawn longer and lower. The photons lost energy, not by stopping, but by continuing. Their once blazing frequencies lowered into the microwave range, their intensity softened, their story deepened. In this stretching, in this cooling, the bright fire of early creation dimmed into a whisper, but it never went out. The energy of this light fills the cosmos still, though not in ways we see with our eyes. It is a presence too even, too everywhere to notice without special tools. It does not shine from any single place, but from every direction at once, a perfect bath of gentle radiation. You could point a sensitive antenna to any patch of sky and it would detect it. Not a signal, not a pattern, but a temperature, about 2.7 degrees above absolute zero. The light of creation has become the cool warmth of forever. And yet inside that sameness there are variations. Tiny ones. Places where the background is slightly warmer, slightly cooler, some coolers, not by degrees, but by millionths. These variations are not flaws. They are the seeds of everything. In the slightly warmer spots, matter was just a bit more dense. Gravity held it tighter. Over time, those spots gathered gas, pulled it inward, formed stars, galaxies, clusters. In the cooler regions, matter spread more thinly. Voids opened, quiet and vast. These differences, invisible to the naked eye, shape the entire structure of the cosmos. This is the cosmic blueprint, drawn not in ink, but in temperature. These early imprints are the fingerprints of the universe's first moments. They are shaped by sound waves moving through the early plasma, by quantum fluctuations stretched across space, by the interaction of light and matter before transparency. Scientists call them anisotropies, and they are studied with reverence. They are the earliest map we have, a guide to how the universe began, not just as an idea, but as a shape. But to truly understand the story of light's freedom, we must return to what it meant for vision. Before recombination, the universe was a fog of particles and radiation. You could not see into it, through it, or across it. It was like trying to look through boiling water. But the moment the fog cleared, the moment electrons and protons found each other, and light was no longer blocked, the universe became visible. From that moment forward, there was a past that could be seen, a horizon of memory stretching outward. This horizon has a name, the surface of last scattering. It's not a wall, not a border, but a moment. The place in time where the photons we now detect last interacted with matter. When we look into space with microwave telescopes, we are not seeing stars or galaxies. We are seeing the afterglow of this very moment, a spherical shell of light, glowing not in colour, but in temperature, etched with the quiet beginnings of structure. It is strange and beautiful to realise that we cannot see beyond it. The light before that time was scattered too often to reach us. It is lost, not in destruction, but in noise. What lies before the surface of last scattering remains hidden, not because it is far, but because it is sealed behind the fog of its own beginning. Yet what comes after is open, transparent, traceable. From this moment forward, the universe became not only visible, but narratable. And so began the age of light as messenger. As stars formed and galaxies coalesced, light began to shape more than itself. It heated gas, triggered reactions, formed molecules. It pushed dust into clouds, cleared paths through nebulae, carved shadows into starlit worlds. It became a force not only of illumination, but of action, a participant in creation, a sculptor of space. But the ancient background light did not stop. It continued outward, away from the first atoms, away from the forming galaxies, through a cosmos growing colder and darker with each breath. Its journey has never ended. It passes through us now, through our bodies, through our atmosphere, through the deep wells of empty space, touching everything without judgment, without pause. It is not focused, not directional. It is ambient, eternal. If you could step outside the Milky Way and look back, the galaxy would shimmer in this light, wrapped in the same glow that touches all things. You would not see it clearly. You would see it as a shadow against a brighter background. Light, even after all this time, still speaks, still tells us where matter is, where gravity bends space, where time has slowed. And even here on Earth, we are touched by this relic. The same photons that broke free when the universe was 380,000 years old pass through our planet, our oceans, our skin. They are gentle, they do no harm, but they are real. They are a connection, not symbolic but physical, between this moment and the first time the universe could see itself. We may never fully understand what came before light's freedom. The first seconds of creation remain wrapped in mystery, in heat, in compression, in physics we are only beginning to grasp. But what followed, the unlocking of light, the soft hush that came when the universe opened its eyes, that we know, that we can still feel. Not in brightness, in presence, in the echo that never stopped moving. The light that once struggled to escape now roams freely across the vastness of space. It has passed galaxies that didn't exist when it began. It has slipped by black holes, drifted through expanding voids, bent softly around clusters of galaxies. And still it continues, not seeking anything, not guided, just moving, because that's what light does when nothing stands in its way. It remembers a time when motion was impossible, and now every photon is a quiet declaration of freedom. In many ways, this ancient light is a backdrop, a stage upon which every star, every world, every life has played out. We do not see it because it is too even, too constant. But like the air we breathe or the gravity that holds us, it is always there. Scientists call it the cosmic microwave background, or CMB, but names cannot contain what it means. This is not just leftover radiation, it is the first visible page of the universe's story. A page still being read by every telescope that peers into the past. When we map the CMB, we are not just looking outward, we are looking backward. We are seeing a time when the universe was simpler, smoother, younger, no galaxies yet, no stars, only clouds of gas beginning to feel the pull of gravity. And in those clouds, a kind of quiet urgency, a potential that would unfold into everything. The patterns in the CMB are like wrinkles in a still cooling loaf of bread, the marks left by rising, stretching, expanding. They are signs of what was already beginning to take shape. And what came next was light's legacy. From the subtle ripples in the background, matter began to gather. The first stars ignited, sending their own light outward, new and bright and sharp. Galaxies spun into being, their spiral arms sculpted by invisible threads of gravity. In time, planets formed, and on one small world, creatures looked up and wondered where the light came from. They built instruments to catch it. They listened. They found the echo, and they understood that this echo, this hum in every direction, was not noise, but origin. Even now we listen. The instruments have changed, no longer simple antennas, but precise spacecraft floating far from Earth, their sensors cooled and shielded to detect the faintest whispers. What they find is not random. It is patterned, detailed, exquisite. The Planck satellite, launched by the European Space Agency, created the most detailed map yet of the CMB, a map so sensitive it could detect differences of just millionths of a degree. From these maps, we learn about the age of the universe, its shape, its ingredients. From this light, we decode time, and time, like light, is not always what we expect. The light from the CMB has taken over 13 billion years to reach us, but to the photon no time has passed at all. Light, moving at the universe's speed limit, experiences no time. It was emitted, and it arrived as if in a single breath. This is not poetic exaggeration, it is physics. And it means that the photons touching our instruments now are not old to themselves. They are as new as the moment they were released. To them, the universe has not aged. In this way, light becomes a thread through time, not broken, not delayed, but seamless. We live in a moment connected directly to the first moments of openness. And every time we detect one of these ancient photons, we are receiving not just information, but presence. Something that has travelled since before stars existed has now touched us, quietly, completely, without ever stopping. But this story is not over. The CMB is fading ever so slowly as the universe continues to expand. It grows colder, its wavelength stretches. Someday in a distant future, it may fall below the threshold of detectability. The sky will still be filled with stars, but the ancient background and the light that once filled everything will be so faint that even the most sensitive instruments will not hear it. And yet, its effects will remain. Its fingerprints are already etched into the very structure of space. In that future, if life exists, they may remember us as the ones who saw the echo, who built quiet machines to listen to what the universe whispered in its sleep, who traced the first breath of light across time and found in it not just science, but story. Because light in the end is not only energy, it is narrative. It moves, it reveals, it remembers, it holds shape and warmth and time in its waves. It touches without touch. It sees without eyes. It carries the memory of things long vanished, of places no longer there. And even when the source is gone, a star burned out, a galaxy faded, the light may still arrive. Long after the moment has passed, the echo of it continues. Light, more than any other thing, refuses to forget. So when you stand beneath the stars, know this. The light that reaches you is more than brightness. It is history, stretched thin. It is freedom, unfolding. It is the story of a universe that once could not see itself, and then suddenly could. And in that seeing, everything changed. That light still moves through you, through the earth, through the sky. It never needed permission. It never asked to be seen. But when we finally noticed it, when we finally listened, it had already been waiting for us for billions of years. And it will go on long after we are gone.